Ancient civilizations in Mexico and Central America figured out something most modern gardeners still haven't learned. They created food systems that kept producing for decades, sometimes centuries, without replanting every single year. These weren't just survival crops either. We're talking about plants that fed millions of people across massive empires. The lost knowledge of perennial agriculture. The Olmec, Maya, and Aztec societies had access to 7 perennial crops that changed everything about how they approached agriculture. While everyone knows about corn, beans, and squash needing yearly replanting, these 7 plants had a different strategy. You plant them once, and they keep giving you food year after year. Some of these plants are still producing in the exact same spots where they were planted generations ago. Archaeological digs in places like Gila Nagit's cave in Mexico show people were using these crops as far back as 8,000 years ago. The Maya wrote about them in their codices, and Aztec records documented them as sacred plants. Today, with climate getting more unpredictable, these ancient crops are making a comeback in permaculture gardens across the United States. Let's start with number 7 on our list, and it's probably sitting in your grocery store right now. Number 7, avocado, the century tree. Avocado trees will outlive you, your kids, and probably your grandkids too. People in southern Mexico first domesticated avocados around 5,000 to 4,000 years before anyone was counting centuries the way we do now. Archaeological evidence from Coxcotlan Cave shows the progression from tiny wild fruits to the larger varieties ancient farmers selected over thousands of years. The Aztecs called it ahuacatl, which literally translates to testicle because of the shape. They connected this fruit to fertility and considered it sacred enough that Spanish chroniclers wrote detailed accounts about seeing it in Aztec markets. Bernardino de Sahagún documented how common people traded these fruits and how nobility used them as tribute payments. Here's what makes avocados fit our plant once, harvest forever category. A single tree can live between 100 and 200 years. Some specimens still growing in Mexico right now are over 400 years old and still producing fruit. If you plant a grafted tree, you'll get fruit in 3 to 5 years. Seedling trees take longer at 8 to 10 years, but once they start, they produce reliably for decades. The nutritional profile explains why ancient Mesoamericans valued them so highly. Each 100 grams contains 160 calories, 15 grams of healthy monounsaturated fats, and 7 grams of fiber. They pack more potassium than bananas and deliver significant vitamin E and folate. The Maya used them medicinally for digestive problems, and modern studies confirm they lower cholesterol and reduce inflammation. Growing them requires well-drained soil in USDA zones 9 through 11. The trees reach 10 to 20 meters tall, though dwarf varieties stay manageable for home gardens. Once established, they handle drought remarkably well. You can propagate by seed, but grafting produces better results and faster fruiting. A mature tree produces between 200 and 1,000 fruits per year, depending on variety and growing conditions. Mexico still produces 35% of the global supply, mostly from ancient landraces that farmers have maintained for centuries. Those old genetics prove their worth year after year. Number 6 on our list gave ancient Mesoamericans their most valuable currency and their most important ceremonial drink. Number 6, cocoa, the divine currency. Cocoa trees transform your garden into a chocolate factory that runs for decades. Genetic studies from 2018 confirm the upper Amazon is the origin point, but Mesoamerican cultivation started with the Olmec around 1,500 years before Common Era. The Maya word cacao gave us our modern term cocoa. Aztec Emperor Montezuma reportedly drank 50 cups of chocolate daily. The beans served as currency throughout the empire. Records show one rabbit cost 10 cocoa beans. People used them for ritual drinks mixed with chili and other spices, creating a bitter, foamy beverage nothing like modern hot chocolate. These trees begin fruiting at 4 to 5 years old and keep producing for 25 to 50 years minimum. Some plantations still harvest from trees that are 80 years old. They grow as tropical perennials in the lowland areas, fitting perfectly into the understory of larger trees. Raw cocoa beans contain extremely high levels of flavonoids, magnesium, iron, and theobromine, which acts as a natural stimulant. Ancient drinks were foamy and heavily spiced with chili peppers and vanilla. Modern dark chocolate retains many of these antioxidant benefits when processed minimally. The trees need shade, humidity, and rich soil to thrive. They work in zones 10 through 12 and typically grow 4 to 8 meters tall as understory plants. Outside their native range, hand pollination often becomes necessary because the specific midge flies that naturally pollinate them don't exist everywhere. The Maya wrote cocoa hieroglyphs into their temples and codices. The Aztecs believed it came from their god Quetzalcoatl as a divine gift. Archaeologists found chemical residue in vessels from Teotihuacan dating to 200 Common Era, proving how long people have been processing these beans. A single tree produces 1 to 2 kilograms of beans per year. Now that might sound small, but those beans are incredibly concentrated. When you factor in the 25 to 50 year productive lifespan, one tree can yield 25 to 100 kilograms of chocolate over its lifetime without replanting. Coming in at number 5, we have the only edible orchid and the second most expensive spice in the world. Number 5, vanilla, the orchid of legends. Vanilla vines create an endless supply of the flavoring compound that changed global cuisine. The Totonac people of Veracruz, Mexico, domesticated vanilla 1,000 years before Common Era. Their mythology says the vine grew from the blood of 2 divine lovers who couldn't be together in life. The Aztecs discovered vanilla when they conquered the Totonac region and immediately started using it to flavor their chocolate drinks. Spanish conquistadors took it global in the 1520s, and it spread to every corner of the world where tropical conditions allowed cultivation. These vines live 10 to 20 years or longer if you manage the support structures properly. They flower annually once they reach maturity at 3 to 5 years old. Each flowering cycle produces the long green pods that eventually cure into the dark brown vanilla beans everyone recognizes. Vanilla serves as the primary source of natural vanillin, a compound responsible for that distinctive flavor. Ancient Mesoamericans used it medicinally for anxiety and as an aphrodisiac. The pods require months of careful curing to develop their full flavor profile. Growing vanilla requires zones 10 through 12 with about 80% shade and strong climbing support. In the wild, tiny Melipona bees handle pollination, but outside Mexico, you need to hand pollinate each flower. This labor-intensive requirement explains why vanilla ranks as the second most expensive spice after saffron. Totonac legends tie vanilla directly to divine sacrifice and transformation. Aztec tribute records document thousands of pods paid annually from conquered regions to the capital. The Spanish initially couldn't get vanilla to produce outside Mexico because they didn't understand the pollination requirements. A mature vanilla vine produces 500 to 2,000 pods per year depending on growing conditions and pollination success. Each pod weighs about 5 to 10 grams when cured. Over a 15-year productive lifespan, a single vine can yield 7,500 to 30,000 pods without any replanting. Number 4 brings us to a plant so important to ancient Mexico that a goddess was created specifically for it. Number 4, agave, plant of the 400 rabbits. Agave plants provided the ancient Mesoamericans with food, fiber, needles, medicine, soap, and their most sacred alcoholic beverage. Evidence from the Tehuacan Valley shows people using agave for over 9,000 years. The Aztecs called it metal or maguey and considered it essential to daily life and religious practice. The goddess Mayahuel represented agave and was depicted with 400 breasts, each producing pulque, a fermented drink made from agave sap. The Aztecs also recognized 400 rabbit gods of drunkenness, showing how central this plant was to their spiritual and social life. Each individual agave plant dies after flowering, which happens anywhere from 8 to 30 years depending on species. However, they produce hundreds of offset plants called pups around their base. These pups grow into full-size plants and produce their own pups, creating an endless cycle. Plantations established centuries ago still produce today because of this vegetative propagation. Aguamiel, the sweet sap collected before fermentation, contains natural probiotics and simple sugars. Roasted agave hearts provide substantial fiber and calories. The flower themselves are edible and nutritious. Modern agave syrup functions as a prebiotic, feeding beneficial gut bacteria. Agave thrives in extreme drought conditions across zones 8 through 11, and many species tolerate temperatures down to negative 10 degrees Celsius, making them cold-hardy enough for parts of the American Southwest. You harvest sap sustainably by removing the central core just before the plant would flower. The cultural significance runs incredibly deep. Pulque served ceremonial functions in temples and social functions in villages. Fiber from the leaves, called isla, was woven into ropes, sandals, and cloth. The sharp terminal spines served as needles and weapons. Different agave species produce varying amounts of sap and take different times to mature. Blue agave used for tequila takes 7 to 10 years before harvest. Century plants, despite the name, typically flower at 10 to 25 years. The offset system means you're never waiting for just one plant. You're managing a continuous cycle of plants at different ages. At number 3, we have a cactus so central to Aztec culture that it appears on the modern Mexican flag. Number 3, prickly pear, symbol of a nation. Prickly pear cactus gave ancient Mesoamericans a reliable food source during famines and regular seasons alike. Evidence from dry caves in central New Mexico showed domestication by 7,000 years before the Common Era. The Aztecs called it nopali and considered it a staple food for common people, though nobility ate it too. The symbolism runs deep. Aztec mythology describes their capital, Tenochtitlan, being founded where they saw an eagle perched on a cactus eating a snake. This exact image appears on Mexico's flag today. The cactus also appeared on sacrificial altars as a symbol of the human heart. Spanish colonizers spread prickly pear globally, and it naturalized so successfully that it's now considered invasive in Australia, South Africa, and Mediterranean regions. The plant's ability to thrive almost anywhere demonstrates why ancient farmers valued it so highly. Individual plants live 20 to 50 years or more. The pads root incredibly easy, so a single plant becomes a thicket within a few years. You can harvest both the pads, called nopalitos, and the fruits, called tunas, annually without killing the plant. Each harvest actually encourages more growth. Nopalitos contain only 19 calories per 100 grams, but deliver substantial fiber, vitamin C, magnesium, and calcium. The fruits pack high levels of antioxidants, called betalains, that give them their vibrant colors. Modern medical studies show eating nopal helps lower blood sugar levels, confirming traditional medicinal uses. The cactus handles zones 8 through 11 and tolerates extreme drought and heat. You propagate by simply cutting a pad and sticking it into the ground. The success rate approaches 100% if you let the cut-in callus for a few days first. Aztec records show nopal consumption across all social classes. People grilled it, pickled it, ate it fresh, and used it medicinally for dozens of conditions. The cochineal insects that live on certain species provided the ancient world's most prized red dye, adding another layer of value. Mature stands produce 8 to 20 tons per hectacre per year, combining pads and fruits. For a home garden, a small patch of 10 plants can yield 50 to 100 kilograms of food annually. The plants basically take care of themselves once established, requiring no irrigation in most climates where they're hardy. Number 2 introduces a vine so productive that ancient Maya couldn't imagine their cuisine without it. Number 2, Chayote, the complete food vine. Chayote vines produce squash-like fruits, edible shoots, tender leaves, and massive underground tubers, all from a single planting. Domestication likely occurred in Guatemala or southern Mexico before 4,000 years before Common Era. Both the Maya and Aztec called it chayote and incorporated it into their daily meals, boiled, stuffed, or eaten raw. Indigenous traders spread chayote to Caribbean islands long before European contact. The plant's ability to produce in marginal soils and its incredible yield made it valuable for trade and food security. The perennial vine lives 5 to 15 years in frost-free areas. In zones where winter cold kills the top growth, the underground tuber survives and sends up new vines each spring. These tubers can reach 10 kilograms and are edible themselves, tasting somewhat like a mild potato. Nutritionally, chayote fruits contain only 19 calories per 100 grams but deliver vitamin C, folate, and fiber. The real benefit comes from having every part of the plant be edible. Young shoots taste similar to asparagus, leaves can be cooked like spinach. The tubers provide starchy calories, the fruits themselves are incredibly versatile in cooking. Growing chayote requires zones 8 through 12 and a strong trellis because the vines grow vigorously. You plant an entire fruit rather than seeds. The fruit sprouts from one end and quickly establishes a root system. Once growing, the vines become extremely productive. Archaeological remains of chayote appear in Salvadoran sites dating back thousands of years. The Maya used it as a dietary staple, and it remains central to Central American cuisine today. A single mature vine produces 50 to 100 fruits per year easily. Some vines in ideal conditions produce over 200 fruits annually. Fruits store well for months without refrigeration. Combined with the edible shoots, leaves, and tuber, one vine provides a massive amount of food over its 5 to 15-year lifespan. Finally, at number 1, we have what the Maya called their miracle tree, and modern nutritional analysis proves they weren't exaggerating. Number 1, Chaya, the Maya miracle tree. Chaya shrubs produce leaves with higher protein content than any other leafy plant on Earth. Native to the Maya region, stretching from Yucatan to Guatemala, evidence shows at least 3,000 years of continuous use. Archaeological sites throughout Maya territory contain Chaya remains, and traditional Maya communities still grow it today. The shrub earns its miracle tree nickname from its nutritional profile. Each 100 grams of leaves contains 70 calories and 7 to 8 grams of complete protein. It delivers 11,000 international units of vitamin A, 240 milligrams of vitamin C, 11 milligrams of iron, and 400 milligrams of calcium. These numbers exceed spinach by substantial margins across every category. Chaya operates on a cut-and-come-again harvesting system. You harvest the leaves, and the plant rapidly regrows them. The woody shrub lives 10 to 20 years or longer with basic care. You simply keep cutting it back, and it keeps producing nutrient-dense leaves year-round in warm climates. One critical detail: you must cook chaya before eating because raw leaves contain cyanogenic compounds that release small amounts of cyanide. Cooking for 15 to 20 minutes completely neutralizes these compounds, making the leaves perfectly safe and highly nutritious. The plant thrives in zones 9 through 12 and becomes quite drought-tolerant once established. Regular cutting encourages bushier growth and more leaf production. You propagate from cuttings, which root easily in moist soil. Maya medicine used chaya for treating diabetes, kidney stones, and high blood pressure. Modern scientific studies confirm hypoglycemic properties, showing it generally does help regulate blood sugar levels. A single mature shrub produces enough leaves for regular harvesting without depleting the plant. You can harvest a few branches weekly during the growing season. The continuous production means you're never without a source of highly nutritious greens once the plant reaches maturity. Why these ancient crops matter today. These 7 crops represent something remarkable about ancient agricultural knowledge. The people who domesticated and refined these plants understood ecological systems in ways modern agriculture often misses. They created food forests and garden systems that mimic natural ecosystems while producing reliable yields for generations. The genius lies in understanding perennial life cycles. Annual crops require yearly soil disturbance, fresh seeds, and continuous labor inputs. Perennials establish deep root systems, build soil health over time, and often become more productive as they age. Ancient Mesoamericans integrated these perennials with their annual crops in systems called milpa or chinampas, creating layered abundance. Modern research into these plants confirms their resilience. Studies show agave and prickly pear thrive despite climate change and drought. Chaya maintains nutrient density under poor soil conditions. Avocado and cocoa support biodiversity as shade trees. Vanilla, chayote, and all the others offer solutions to current agricultural challenges. The productive lifespans tell the real story. An avocado tree planted today will still be feeding people in the year 2125. A prickly pear stand established now will produce food until 2075 with zero replanting. These aren't just crops, they're living infrastructure that supports human communities across generations. Climate resilience in growing zones. Climate instability makes these ancient crops increasingly relevant. They evolved in highly variable conditions across Mesoamerica, from desert highlands to tropical lowlands to volcanic slopes. That evolutionary history built in resilience. When modern annual crops fail due to unexpected weather, these perennials often continue producing. Each crop offers different benefits for different growing conditions. Cold climate gardeners in USDA Zone 8 can grow prickly pear and some agave species. Subtropical zones 9 and 10 support avocado, chaya, and chayote. True tropical zones 11 and 12 allow the full range, including cocoa and vanilla, and anyone in zones 8 through 12 can grow at least some of these crops. The ancient farmers who developed these plants didn't have scientific laboratories or genetic sequencing. They had patient observation over thousands of years. They selected plants that reliably produced, that tolerated stress, that required minimal inputs. The results speak for themselves through unbroken use spanning millennia. Planting these 7 crops connects you directly to agricultural wisdom refined over 9,000 years. Ancient Mesoamericans created sustainable food systems that modern science is only beginning to fully understand. These plants offer proven solutions for uncertain times ahead.